Hey, I'm Cliff.
And I'm Susan.
And welcome to our Cliff and Susan podcast.
You guys, we are so excited today to share with you some big news. We have our debut album dropping this Friday, and we're going to share with you not only the release of that album, but what kind of led to this, what is a 7-year journey for us. But real quick, before we jump into all of the things we have to share today, we are a married music duo based right here in Little Rock, Arkansas. We have our own production company, and we do music full time. So this podcast is just a great way for us to share our musical journey, let not only our fans and followers, but our fellow independent artists kind of listen and learn and watch what we're doing and learn from what works and maybe what doesn't and all of the things in between. So welcome to the podcast. Are you excited? We haven't done one of these in a while.
I know, It's been a long time.
So let's just jump right in. The big news today and the focus and the title of this is going to be all about our debut album. And Cliff and I met in 2016 on the stage at Willie D's Rock and Roll Piano Bar performing together. And we actually met at a rehearsal, which we had prior to that weekend that we were going to play together. And at that time, Cliff wasn't playing the piano. Now he plays piano and he's an actual dueling piano player. But we met, he was hired to do fiddle and guitar and backline drums and all of that. And I was in town. I traveled quite a bit at that time, and I was home that weekend, and they booked me. And we had been hearing about each other. I'll make it short because our story is kind of funny, but we'll save that for another day. But we had been told about each other and didn't actually meet until that day. And it was musical love at first sight, and then love happened later. And a year later, we had eloped in Vegas. So that's the short of it. There's a lot of in between, but
a lot of details.
He had me at his Purple Rain guitar solo, which is funny to him because he's like, that one of all this. But that was the first time I actually heard him play an instrument, and then of course fiddle and all of that great stuff. So we're happy and married. And if you're watching online, if you're watching our video, we will be uploading for the first time a video component of this podcast. So if you guys go to our YouTube channel, our Cliff and Susan YouTube channel, you can see us in action today, sharing all of this news with you.
Yeah, you can actually see our little dogs here.
That was what I was going to say. Now, you can't see Charlie Daniels, the toy poodle. He's in the floor. He might make an appearance. But right now, in between us, we have our party Yorkie Booker in between us. He was the OG, the original. And then right here behind my computer, I'll have Gibby get up and say hi. There he is. He's a little Maltese rescue. So let's jump in. I like to keep these, what I love about a podcast is like maybe somebody's going to work in their drive time, or 20 to 30 minutes is our target. Sometimes we go over, but that's what we're shooting for today. So debut album.
It's hair. It's hair, guys.
It's hair. It's here. It is here. It's here on Friday, October 27, 2023. This has been 7 years in the making. So let's just kind of, number one, the date of release is this Friday. We have decided to do an album release show, which is going to happen after the first of the year. If you guys know us, maybe you don't know our schedule, but we, like I said, we're based in Little Rock and we do a lot of shows in Arkansas, but twice a year at least, we leave and go do contracts outside of the state. And in this case, we are leaving a week from yesterday, so less than a week. We're headed to the Caribbean, and we perform on the island of St. Martin at the Red Piano. It's an awesome venue. Getting
there for the big Halloween party. I think everyone's dressing as the Addams Family, so that'll be interesting to figure out our costumes.
The staff is, but this is 12 years. I believe it's 12, at least 11. I can't remember.
So this will be the 7th
year for you.
Year for me.
2016 was when you joined me down there. Yeah. So it's a solo piano bar, lots of fun, a 4-hour show, 6 nights a week for a month. And we'll talk more about that show and kind of what we do as a duo and how it differs from what we're doing with this album release and the full band. And so we will be gone. And then after we get back, then let's be honest, everybody wants to focus on the holidays during December.
Yeah,
right?
well, and I'm excited. This will be the first year that we'll actually get to maybe do a little decoration and celebrate Christmas a little bit.
We
were moving over Christmas. So
last year, yeah. So we have our debut album release show planned for January 11th. That's a Thursday. And shout out to Chris King and Suzanne over at Sticky's Chicken Shack, Rock and Roll Chicken Shack.
Yeah, Sticky Fingers.
Sticky's is a really well-known and very popular venue in downtown, the River Market area of Little Rock. And so great stage, lots of fun, has been had for 20 years now. So to have this location as our debut release really means a lot to us. So that the tickets are already on sale, you guys, and you can go to our website and get those tickets. cliffandsusan.live is our website. But I just wanted to kind of get everybody up to speed. If you've never heard about us or you just joining for the first time, that's our story, and that's where we are. That's our story, and I'm sticking to it. That's my story. All right. So let's jump into the things I want to cover with you today, Cliff. And we were kind of getting ready to go over what we wanted to share with you guys on this podcast. And, really the inspiration behind the album. And when we met, I had just released a 12-song album that I co-wrote with a lot of writers in Nashville, and I did a crowdfunding where I sold like 300 paintings and did like fan funding projects. So I would just come off of a big album launch, and
I
then
think
an
the
EP.
most recent one that you did, was the EP.
And then I did an EP, and then so long story short, I had done a lot with my solo music career. I've been doing music for 20 years this year. 2023 is where 2003 to 2023 has been when I left corporate world as a radio frequency engineer because I discovered piano bars. And so I'm very rooted in that high energy, very performance driven, all requests, all kinds of music. We'll talk more about our duo show, but the shows you guys have seen us do they're cover shows. We've only done a handful at this point of our original full band shows. And so
we're excited to start doing those more. It's really fun and rewarding to finally get to play our own music.
Yeah, but we've grown a fan base, and so my point there is like, tell me, and I do a lot of talking, so I'll bounce this one over to you. 7 years in the making. What does that mean to you? I just come off and I'd been doing some original work. Where were you at that point when we met?
So I've also been doing music for 20 years or more. Definitely in a different scene. I was more behind the scenes, just like backup musician. Until I got a little bit older, obviously, I moved to Nashville and did a duo with a guy named Jerry Don O'Neill, who's still in Nashville.
And that was on Broadway, right?
Yeah, and we played the whole Broadway scene, Printer's Alley, all the writers' rounds, and I would play with him and met a lot of cool people, did some cool little projects with some other artists there, but I was still just the guitarist and the fiddle player.
Yeah, he didn't really...
I sang harmonies, didn't sing lead or anything. I was definitely not a performer.
Yeah, and when I got a hold of him, I like to say that. We really elevated your performance with your musicianship out. I mean, you make me a better musician, and I'd say I probably likewise make you a better performer.
Yes, for sure.
Those skill sets we've built in each other, and that's
it's really incredible
cool.
What a woman will do to a man.
So, then you came back home because your grandfather got sick, and we'll talk more about that because he wrote a song called A Song for Granddad that really tells that story. But So anyway, we got together and we started playing, immediately started working together. I had invited you to come join me at Oaklawn Casino in Hot Springs, and you were playing guitar and fiddle and doing some harmonies, but I was still driving the ship or sailing the ship when it came to the performance side, and then we all so our sound has developed over 7 years where I remember one of the main guys, the big boss at Oaklawn, a year or two later, he said, man, I just love what you've done with Cliff. Or, Cliff, I can't believe his voice. And they were just like, where did this come from? So you really blossomed and came out of your shell as an equal to me on stage as far as not just being BGVs and backing me with, what I was trying to do.
Well, and I think I kind of still remember being in Santa Barbara, like probably one of the first times we were in Santa Barbara. It wasn't like you were singing the majority of the songs, but I think you had kind of gotten a little sick or a sinus infection or something like that. And
I was like, you're going to have to sing.
Yeah, so we just started kind of going back and forth, and we were like, that works way better. Let's just do that. And I guess at that time I was singing more than just every other, but yeah, so I've really built my repertoire, and I used to not be able to remember words. Like I just could never remember words. I've gotten better at that.
That's another thing I like to share with people. They always like, how do you know all these songs? Well, when you do it for a living, and that's a muscle that you stretch mentally to
something in your brain clicks and kind of figures out a way to. I mean, it just literally some songs that I've only played a couple or a few times now that we've just got requests for. I'm already able to memorize them somehow. I don't even know what happens up there in my brain. I'm not in control of that.
So let's talk about 7 years. We've been writing the entire time we started writing. We on the road, at home. Cliff's he is a prolific writer compared to me. I tend to be behind my computer working on the business side of things, and he's in there coming up with ideas and whatnot. So we've got well over 30 songs that either have been recorded or are in the works for consideration for the next projects. And we're going to talk about our 12 songs and how we chose them. But as far as what guided us into why did we wait 7 years? It was really important to me because when I went and did my first album in Nashville, great songs. It told a story about where I was in my life. I wrote a lot of songs about me. It was a therapy album about an old past relationship. So, for me, it was like, that album was a big learning lesson for me. So, but I also know we really produced. There were horns, there were big harmonies, and then when people came to see me live in person, it was me and a piano. It was like, how does that translate to what people know and love in the venue, which has been my flagship product, is my show.
Yeah.
And then then they go stream my music, which great. It was an awesomely well produced album, but it didn't really match branding wise for me. And so I really wanted what we released as a duo to number one make sense. So it took us time to find our stage presence and what
and
we
just
were.
our comfortability together and what we are most confident in doing, and like really finding our sound took a while. But that's really the main reason, because a lot of people are like, I don't know why y'all haven't released any music. Well, that's really why.
It was important to get it right.
And I think it was the perfect time. It was the right time. Because I've had songs written. I still have a lot of songs. One of them, at least on the album, was one of the first songs that I'd written, and I still have a lot of old songs that I'd written way before I met you.
But some of them didn't make sense for us to record.
Right.
And a lot of people have recorded your music already.
And so a lot of these songs most of these songs on this album were written after we were together, and it kind of started to make sense, and I started writing for us, and because we had toyed with the idea of recording, and we were like, having a brand, just we didn't know what to do. We were like,
does it make sense for a duo to release a song about breakup, or like who leads vocally? Are we going to equally share? Does every song need to be a duet? Well, these were the conversations that we had.
Well, and you even talked about, you were like, well, why does it matter if it's one genre? Well, it definitely matters, because it gives
that was
an
a conversation
identity crisis
a while back, but
yes, of course. But
niching into, I mean, we are country music guys. Let's just go ahead and put that out there. I mean, you guys, if you've heard us before, we do country rock, oldies, blues. I even rap and do pop, and I mean all of the things, because it's an all request show, and it's about playing music that you all know and love. And so,
at that time, it was like, well, that's what people are going to hear at our show. They're going to hear everything. Well, but that's not us.
That's not us.
That's
as
not us
original artists.
As original artists,
yes.
And speaking to those of you out there, if you are an original artist, find your lane that you most fit in and feel most comfortable in. And I think we've definitely done that with these songs in this album.
But what we did keep from our show is, number one, we wanted high energy for the most part. We wanted to be able to perform our original music and be able to bring the live show that you guys know and love about us, which is that in-your-face, rocking a fiddle and a guitar and a piano. There are moments to bring it down and have sentimental and, tug on a heartstring with ballads, but we didn't want to be ballad heavy. And we definitely wanted the rockin' country sound. And so, all of these were the conversations that really came to a point where we didn't have it calculated that it would be October 27 of 2023 that we really released the album, but it felt right about 2 months ago. I was like, Cliff, I think we're ready. What makes sense? We're headed to the Caribbean. We won't be where we can produce anything if we're in the Caribbean, because, we produce all of our music ourselves, and we got to make sure we factor that in. What if we just pick the Friday before we leave for the month and really just shoot to make that happen? And it all felt right.
A few of the songs were not even recorded at all.
At that point. So we're like, let's get it done. Now I want to stop and take a brief moment to say, Cliff, meanwhile, over the 7 years, we incorporated as Big Red Dog Productions LLC. We've produced a music festival, which one of the main missions of that festival was to provide a stage that had national talent on it, but was allowing our fellow artists and independent artists here in Arkansas. It's a country festival called Yodaloo, was allowed to allow our colleagues to have a place to grow their music career. And so meanwhile, Cliff has been producing not just country music artists. You just produced a track on Amber Violet that was a rock pop sound.
Yeah.
He's done a lot. You've done gospel records.
That one for Andrew was definitely more of that.
Yeah, Andrew.
It's Billie Eilish cover. Yeah.
Ikbakati, he was on The Voice. You produced some, and everything from demos to full on production for fellow artists. He's currently in the middle of a project that's releasing hopefully after the first of the year. But it's over 20 songs that Cliff is producing for Freedom Sings Arkansas, which is a nonprofit
Yeah, the
organization.
first album will be 13 songs.
So the first album will drop, but what those are songs that Freedom Sings Arkansas works with veterans who want to tell their story. Many times they're dealing with PTSD and a lot of issues from their past in war and overseas, and they come together with hit songwriters and tell their story through song, and then they bring it to Cliff, and he produces it, and so that will culminate into a 13-song album, and then subsequently there will be another album that releases. So lots of growth for Cliff has happened in the studio, which is awesome for me to be a fly on the wall and hear all of this, because I think not only does it help us where we are in our career, but it just really elevates everything that I know Cliff is, not just my husband and my partner performance-wise, but he's a fantastic singer-songwriter. He plays over 11 instruments, and his production work and his arranging and all of the things that I knew it was amazing at when we met. To have watched that grow over the last 7 years, it's just been truly incredible.
That's another reason why we hadn't released, and
we wanted to be confident.
I'm sure 3 or 4 years from now, I'll be like, gosh, that stuff, it was terrible on that first album, but hopefully not.
Well, maybe we'll be also collaborating with some big
Right.
producers in Nashville or wherever, and be able to. I know right now we're in an interesting place in the world where you can produce some of the things, we can track in our studio and then send what we do musically, either vocals or music, the instrumentation, and then work remotely with producers. So maybe that's in the works. But anyway, so that's how we got to where we are now. And let's talk about the songs that are on the album. So
yeah, starting with Neon Dreams. So we wanted to, again, we wanted that high energy feel all the way through the album, but of course, there are some slower or ballad type songs. Just like our shows, we wanted it to be a journey. So, when we start off our show, we want to still have that energy. So this one, Neon Dreams, definitely starts off with that high energy feel. It's kind of that rockin' country, maybe a little bit more commercial. The whole album is kind of on the line between singer-songwriter and commercial country.
Mm-hmm. And Neon Dreams was birthed out of your friend Bobby Cockerham.
So my friend Bobby Cockerham, he's actually a writer on several of these songs.
But he came up with the idea for
right. He wasn't a writer on this one, but he was like, you need to write a song called Neon Dreams.
He goes, there, go write that. And he walked out of the room, and I was like, that's not a bad idea. Bree Ogden was over at the time, and we were like, let's write it, So a few weeks later, we got together with Bree, and we sat right here in this living room where we're recording this podcast, and we finished it up. So we're real proud of Neon Dreams. Number one, we chose it for number one because right out of the gates, we also performed this one right out of the gates. Like when you come to our live show with our full band, I'm assuming we'll continue to start with Neon Dreams because it's just a great way to set the tone. And so,
well, funny enough, the chorus of that song came out of a dream.
Cliff rolled over one morning and I told him the groove I wanted. I was like, I love this groove, write that. Next morning he rolled over and he rattled off probably 80% of the chorus. And I was like, well, there it is. And I was like, and I recorded him right there. And then later we, brought that to the writing with Bree. And it was shoot up to the sky, getting high like Elon. I mean, those lyrics that are in the chorus that we love so much are kind of where that started. So that's Neon Dreams. And now let's go into track number 2, A Natural State.
Another one that came from a dream. This is like the maybe 3 or 4 songs that I've awakened with an idea, and
but this one was written with Corey.
It was, but the line, the flat bottom boat on the water's wake, and in the chorus about the fireflies, both of those things were something I had written down a while back. And so Corey Jackson and I, we write.
Tell him who Corey is, because a lot of people know him already.
Yes, he's an artist from Jonesboro. He's got his own music career, and he's doing great. Releasing some new music. He was on The Voice, Team Blake. Yep. And so we do several writing sessions together. Try to do one, maybe once a quarter or so. Over Zoom, yeah. Well, he was actually here in the studio when we started A Natural State. He came over and we didn't really have any ideas yet. So he was like, I want to write one called A Natural State about Arkansas. And so as I do, I flip through my voice memos and go through different ideas, riffs, guitar riffs. That's a lot of how these songs come into fruition, just off of a riff idea. that will spark a melody, that will spark some words, and that's kind of how I start a lot of these things. Some of them will start with some lyrics, like a random lyric that was like, that's cool, and I kind of hear a melody. But so we wrote that one, finished it up probably a month or so later, and
it's about.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm getting
Do you like
there.
my? I'm being a wonderful. What am I? Am I driving the ship?
In MC, I don't know.
I keep saying driving a ship. You don't drive a ship. You sail a ship.
Sail a ship.
Anyway, go ahead.
So, Arkansas.
A natural state is the name of the song.
Yeah, that's the state motto, logo. I can't remember.
Right.
I don't know what you call that.
I'd
but
say the state motto.
Motto. So it just talks about, and whether you're from Arkansas or not, if you're from the South, a lot of the elements that you will hear throughout the song, the themes, it's all very much that growing up in the South. The choruses just get a taste of the honeysuckle growing wild on the hillside. It's a kind of place you can take it slow, like the wandering glow of a firefly. So there's a lot of themes throughout the song that will kind of touch on that Southern growing up in the South, but definitely that Arkansas feel. So,
and it's a natural state. It ends living in a natural state. So we never actually mention the word Arkansas.
No, we don't.
But it's definitely a nod, a deep nod, a significant nod toward Arkansas. All right, cool. So the next song on track number 3, "Lonesome Cold as You."
No. Track number 3 is better than a country song.
I'm sorry, I had the wrong notes here. Yeah, go ahead. I'm glad that you remember that.
Yeah, so Better Than a Country Song is one of the first country songs I had written with Bobby Cockerham. I remember being in his living room over at Mayflower, and when we had written it, I'd kind of written it with Blake Shelton in mind. So I remember recording in his living room just a little demo of me just with some super thick Blake Shelton country accent, and we thought it was hilarious. But then when we recorded it, we were like, wait, that's actually a pretty good song.
So shout out to Midnight South. They have really taken this song and done incredible things with it. And so you guys go and listen to their version. They've got 2 versions out. They were the first one to record it. So Midnight South, our friends Matt Sammons, lead singer, and that group of guys are just, number one, they're amazing guys. But secondly, amazing talents, great live show, deep harmonies. And so Better Than a Country Song, they released the original version, and then they signed with the management team in Nashville and subsequently released an acoustic version of Better Than a Country Song. So you guys go check that one out.
Now,
our version is not the same.
Technically, Rusty Conway Band was the first person to release
So if
that
we ever
song.
have a fun facts, if you know about Cliff and Susan, then you get like extra bonus points. Cliff released the project.
Yeah, man, this was a long time ago. After
I don't know if you've ever told
it.
anybody this publicly.
Yeah, no,
We went and erased everything, but he decided he was going to be Rusty Conway.
So the whole story with Rusty Conway, by the way, is when I was little, when I was like 3, I went to this daycare, and my grandmother would usually pick me up, drop me off, pick me up. Well, I'd been going to this daycare for a few months, and she couldn't pick me up, so my mom had to come pick me up one day, and she came to pick me up, and she was like, "Hey, I'm here to pick up my kid," and they were like, "All right, who is it?" "Cliff." And they were like, "I don't know if we have a Cliff here," and she was like, "Yeah, you do. He's been here for a while." And she saw me run across the room, and she pointed me out, and she was like, "That's Cliff, right there," and she was like, "That's Rusty Conway," and she was like,
And you were
"What?"
how old? 3?
I was like 3, something like that. And so I had told them my name was Rusty Conway. And that's what they called me
So
for like
Cliff
2
recorded
months or
when he
so.
first started recording music.
That was my alias.
In your grandmother's bedroom, you were releasing songs under Rusty Conway,
That's what
and
I was
DJ
doing. I don't
Taylor
know why.
even played
Oh,
some
God.
of those.
And he still has that probably. And
We need to tell him, and I'm sure he's now at this point not playing Rusty Conway
That
anymore.
was
but
terrible, man.
It's funny.
I can't believe.
I love that story because it's just so cute, the story behind that name. But anyway, so Better Than a Country Song, you said Rusty Conway released a version, but Midnight South, and then so track number 3 on that one. Let's go into track number 4.
That was our first, I'd say, not our debut single, but our real debut of what we sound like when you come see us. That
I would
high
say
energy.
the word flagship or leading song or the most, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, it's everything lyrical about,
And it's
lyrically
the
about our
title
story.
track. What's it called?
Fiddle and Keys.
There you go.
Now, this is what landed us on our national TV debut. Back in February, Governor Mike Huckabee on his Huckabee Show on TBN invited us to be on his show, and we were the musical guest and performed Fiddle and Keys live. We're now in the middle of a music video, an official music video with an Emmy award-winning team. Fiddle and Keys has really been, I would say, our stamp of who we are. You know, like when you listen to it, especially if you know that we're telling our story about how we met in it, then you're going to get to know who we are. You're going to hear, like, we wanted to write a song that was going to allow us to show off what you guys know about us with me on the keys, rocking like I Love Boogie Woogie, Jerry Lee Lewis style playing. Cliff, of course, we're going to have Devil Went Down to Georgia every show pretty much from here until eternity, because you guys always, when you hear that fiddle and you hear him play it, you're like, got to play Devil Went Down to Georgia. So we wanted him to be able to play and write a very, very rockin' fiddle solo and integrate all of that into one song. So that's Fiddle and
Yeah,
Keys.
so I mean, it's definitely a lot of stops, a lot of pushes, a lot of musical technicality in that throughout that theme. And it's funny, it's less than 3 minutes long, but it feels like so much happens in it.
Oh gosh, it was great. And so you guys can see our performance on TV is pretty much tagged at the top of all of our social media, and you can find Fiddle and Keys, or just go to YouTube and type in Cliff and Susan Fiddle and Keys, and you'll see that big production on the TBN set of Huckabee Show.
So following that song is one that we decided to put on the album that you had released before, but didn't. I don't think I
never really did much with. When I
marketed
released this EP out of Nashville, I kind of was in a weird place in my career and decided to kind of like take a step back and breathe. And I was like, a lot was going on, a lot wasn't working for me, to be honest, and I was confused and still learning. How do I be an original artist? I've got this career, but how do I do this? And then I kind of was a little just kind of disappointed, or what's the word? Just kind of in a weird place at that point. And then, so personal issues and just things in general just weren't really jiving. I knew I needed to find the next step for me. I felt a new chapter coming on. And I honestly, at that point, didn't know if it was going to be music. I kind of was like at a point where I was at a crossroads, and then I met Cliff. And so
that's funny, because that's really how it happened before I met you as well. I mean, I was like,
you were working at the drugstore.
Yeah. And I was like, maybe I should just go, to school for respiratory therapy or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that's...
So we met, and then, things happened. But the point there is that the EP, Maybe You Should, Painting You Gone, not Painting You Gone, I'm sorry. Maybe You Should,
Ain't My
Baby Grand, and Looking for the One was that. And I've since pulled those down because honestly, I wanted them the two songs we chose to be on this album, Maybe You Should. And I want to give shout out to the writers, because we did not write this one, and I want to make sure I get this right. But Taylor Hicks, y'all remember Taylor Hicks?
Yeah.
He co-wrote this one.
He won American Idol.
He did. He was an American Idol winner. And so, do you guys remember Bonnie Raitt's If I Can't Make You Love Me? Well, then that was one of the writers on this one was a writer on that song. So Mike Reed, Taylor Hicks, and Gary Nicholson wrote these songs, and or that song. Beautiful song, and I recorded this one at Larry Beard at Beard Music Group. So that's the story on Maybe You Should. Now, here in a minute, we'll talk about Ain't My Baby Grand. Same. In fact, I'll just go ahead and talk about it since we're talking about it now. But Ain't My Baby Grand is later on the album, but it was
track number.
I can't
8, something like that.
James Slater and Brett James are the ones that recorded or wrote that song, and it's about talking about your love, but it's also a nod to playing piano. Ain't My Baby Grand, baby grand piano. So those are on the album, and yeah, I'll head back over here to our what's next on the list, because When I'm Feeling Lonely is track number 6.
Yep. So When I'm Feeling Lonely, that was another co-write with Corey Jackson. That was going to be just a demo for pitch, but neither of us kind of really did anything with it for a while, and still a good song. It kind of has a good feel to it. That I always like the line, got a little courage in the crown in my cup. That one always sticks in my head. So that one's just kind of that normal longing for someone song, I guess.
Well, it's like to me, it's about this guy singing about this girl that they're like BFF, but she's never figured out that, like, hey, maybe we're in love and we should move on and like get together. And so
not move on separate ways.
Move along together.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was So that was When I'm Feeling Lonely, Driving Me Crazy. Now, this is a big one for us. This was our debut single, like as Cliff and Susan. This is what established us on all of the streaming platforms, got us our Cliff and Susan brand, secured as far as when you release a song for the first time, that's when all the platforms start knowing about you. And like, you get your artist Spotify link and all that, and, Apple Music.
And as long ago as that happened, it still worked with this vibe of everything, and that
we did.
Honestly, it's why we released it, is because it
fits so well.
It fits really well. It's got that kind of older honky tonk feel.
And
it's
tell
that
them who wrote it.
Guitars and Cadillacs. So my dad, Philip Prowse, so he wrote this the year I was born, actually, and so
Which was
I was born in 91.
Yep.
What did you think I was wrong?
No,
Okay.
I was going to share my age. I was born. I'm a proud December of '79 baby. I'm proud of that, and I'm going to tell everybody.
Okay.
There's a bit of an age difference. I know people always
Just
wonder, so
small.
why not just tell them?
Just a small age difference. So yeah, my dad wrote this song. He's written several other good songs, and maybe we'll release some more that are some
We
of his
released
songs
it on
that
his
we wrote.
birthday. Did you say
We
that?
did. I did not say that. We did release it on his birthday, which is April 11th. And
Years
so
ago, I can't remember. Was that in 2020? No. Yes.
I think it was 2019, maybe.
Anyway, we released
So
it.
I did remix this for the album and
Mm-hmm.
remixed and mastered it. So it is a really fun one, and actually we were just at a wedding this past weekend, and they were singing the heck out of it. So we were really
We
excited
were like,
to see that.
I can't believe they're
We're like,
singing.
dadgum, they actually know the words to our song. They really listen to our music.
It was really
It was mind
cool.
blowing.
And then, okay, track number 8 is A Song for Granddad. And A Song for Granddad is Cliff telling the story of his late grandfather that I never had the privilege of meeting. Now, Cliff's grandmother, we call her Nana. If you ever hear us say Nana, it's Miss Pat Wetzler. But they were very involved, and really, I would say, one of the reasons that you really grew musically, because they would take you up to Mountain View, Arkansas, and play on the town square, and that's where you found a lot of your fiddle chops, and I'm sure guitar as well.
Just improvisational skills in general, yeah. So this one has gotten over 1 million views on Facebook
of our performance of it.
performance of it on the Huckabee Show. So we got to play 2 songs on the Huckabee Show. Obviously, Fiddle and Keys is the one that got us on there and was televised. But on their digital platform, they let us play another one, and that went to our digital platform. And yeah, it really took off. And I think it just resonates with a lot of people, and it's very relatable.
Hopefully your grandfather's still alive, but if not, then this definitely will tug on your heartstring and make you remember the things that you love about him. And so there again, I mean, that song was written from experience, and I know we hadn't really talked about that, but some of the songs you've written or we've written together are more just about stories about other people, or just
and
an
honestly,
idea.
I would say
one,
the majority, like 90% of the songs I write, are just based off of ideas, not really personal.
but it's interesting to me,
experience.
and I think this is a note for us, that the ones we write that are about personal experience,
sure.
number one, it helps people connect with us more about our story,
Yeah.
but also they just seem to work well. I wouldn't say better, but they work well, and maybe better. I don't know. So yeah, A Song for Granddad. Now, 9, If It's Worth Doing.
Oh, I just want to mention there's a thing. So in A Song for Granddad, some people like to know like these little things on the recording, and we'll get a little bit more into it, but I think it's fun because like right at the very start, if you're listening into some headphones, you'll like hear in the right ear my stool creaks, and you can hear me like sniff a little bit at the start of
A
it.
Song for Granddad.
Yeah, you can't hear it if you're listening over speakers.
Oh,
But yeah, I just
funny.
think it's a little fun thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when in the start of "Wish You Were Here," Pink Floyd, you can hear it like on that whole, you can hear that guy breathing. So he's like,
Really?
yeah, you can hear if you're listening to headphones.
All right. So track number 9, If It's Worth Doing.
So "If It's Worth Doing" was one that we had released, I think, right before we released "Fiddle and Keys." And that one, again, it's just kind of an idea that I had. It stems off of, I don't know who said it. I think someone said it.
If it's worth doing.
Worth doing, it's worth overdoing. Or maybe that just came up in my own head. I'm not sure. But So that's
My dad always says, I taught my kids to paint the underside of a chair. It's like, go the extra mile, you know? So I love
so
that.
that's kind of how it stems from, and or what it stems from. So yeah, it was a fun little tune, and we decided to put it on the album, and it kind of has a little bit of personal experience in it, because the first line is, I remember when my daddy taught me how to drive a stick, said it wouldn't take a minute, you could learn it pretty quick, but a couple hours later I was ready to give up. And so, I mean, that's pretty much how my experience in driving a stick went.
Yeah.
But I got it.
My best friend Lindsay and I went, I'm telling on ourselves, we went and decided to test drive well, my dad had taught me in the truck, in the farm truck, okay? But then the actual time I ever drove by myself without him was Lindsay and I went and test drove. Why they would let 16-year-olds test drive a vehicle from a dealership. But we
Yeah,
did.
that's
We went and found us a stick shift, cute little car, and went out to the Walmart parking lot with some hills and stuff. And we were practicing. And I was teaching her how to do it on a.
Oh, I can drive a stick great now, but it was a slow start.
But anyway, that's off the topic. So if it's worth doing. Now, 10 is Ain't My Baby Grand. I've already told you guys about that one. But then Better Than a Country Song is number 11.
Lonesome Cold as You. You did it again.
I did it. I'm sorry. They
Lonesome
switched.
Cold as You is number 11.
I do apologize.
So Lonesome Cold as You is one that I had written while I was playing with a bluegrass band. And we actually released a bluegrass version under Cliff and Susan, and it's still out there.
And it will, because we want this version that you hear on the album to be our album version.
Yeah, this is a band version, and I actually like this version more. It just kind of drives a little bit better, and
got a Tyler Childers sound about it.
Yeah, that kind of Texas country, Tyler Childers, Yellowstone, all that stuff that you'd hear there. And yeah, it's gotten a lot of good response, and it's a fun bluegrass, old folky kind of sounding tune.
All right, last but not least, High and Dry.
Yeah, you talk about this one.
I love High and Dry. Cliff wrote this song. This is a solo, right? You wrote this one by yourself. So Cliff wrote this one, and lyrically, it's just fun to listen to, and but then musically, it's a blazer, y'all. If you think, I was like, I don't know if this is an appropriate, comparison, but if you like or you remember the song Sin Wagon by the Dixie Chicks, or the Chicks now, it's like really upbeat musically. It's so interesting. There's solos by a lot of instruments, and so that's High and Dry. Now I did have one little portion of this.
Yeah.
I come up and I call it a silly little solo, because it really is.
I think it's
silly.
a cool solo.
It's cute. It's cute. It's fun for me to walk over to the piano and go and do the thing, but I'm actually fronting this out front with a wireless mic in our live shows, and that was important to me, to leave the piano, be able to leave and go and
you
perform.
do a great job at it.
Thank you. And so, High and Dry, I'm leading vocally. You tell them how we produced it, because we could roll right into what makes us unique. And actually, let's use this song as how we roll into the next topic. Is we do self-produce there's only 2 songs on this album that we did not self-produce, and those are the songs I brought over from that EP that's no longer available, but was on Beard Music Group, which great production company in Nashville. In fact, Beard is spelled Beaird. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's right. Music Group. And if you're looking for a great production team and producer in Nashville, go to Beard, because they will get it done. They've got Music Row musicians, and just a great place to get a Nashville production done. But anyway, so self-produced.
Yes. So, and I do like that those songs are not, super overproduced, so they still sound cohesive on this album. But other than that, you won't really hear anything besides drums, bass, guitars, fiddle, and piano.
Yeah, let's talk about what you won't hear. You won't hear horns or anything that is going to stand out instrumentation-wise that you wouldn't hear at our live show. So we didn't overproduce such that we can't rock it on a live stage with a full band.
Yeah,
Number 2, you won't hear any electronic. At this point in our career, we're not doing anything where there's no programmed drums or any digital or any kind of, because I mean, like even Morgan Wallen's got it, like the was Last Night has a lot of that.
Right.
You might hear it in a club, and some remixed versions of songs.
No snap tracks, clap tracks.
Right.
808s
and
synth pads.
I personally sometimes like that, but at this point we haven't done that, and we may never. Who knows? But
I mean, and maybe we will, and we might be limiting ourselves on what market we get into, but we really want to keep it pure to what we can do live and what we sound like. Even if you come to our show with just her and I,
She and I? Is it she and I or her and I?
Her and me. I don't mean
Me and her.
Susan and me is how you'd say it. So you'd still get the pretty much the premise of what we're going to sound like. So that was important to us to.
So on High and Dry, let's talk about. So I want you to walk through High and Dry. This moves us into how do we track? How do we actually produce our music in the studio?
Yeah.
You know, Cliff's got our everything set up. We've got a control room and a tracking room, and then talk to them about High and Dry because I think this is a good example.
Well, just to start out, I always start with an acoustic track, and when I do an acoustic track, I call it my rough track, but it's really my acoustic guitar is going to be my foundation. I might keep it and I might not, depending on what just the production I feel like needs. Whether it's a rough with a keep or not, I make sure I get every structure. So every stop, every push, every bit of arrangement that I want to do, I try to do from the get-go with my acoustic track. And then I record drums. So I always want to get the drums out of the way. It's kind of the loudest instrument. It's a good bass line for where you're going to be, and it really sets the tone for the rest of it.
Not bass line, but bass line like Benchmark.
Yeah, Benchmark, sure.
And then the bass.
And then I record the bass after the drums, and then record all of the auxiliary instruments, the electrics, the solos, the fills, and then do, I typically actually after the acoustic guitar will do a rough vocal that I will re-record later.
So I love to brag about Cliff because I would say 90%, and probably more than that, all of the instruments you hear on this album, except for the 2 songs that I brought over from BMG, are recorded by Cliff.
Well,
But let's talk about what was
Sure.
not, just because that's easy.
Yes. So there are 4 songs on the album that I had brought in different drummers. So Driving Me Crazy and Fiddle and Keys, the drums were Cliff Aaron.
Drummerboyinfinity.com.
Yeah. So he did the drums on those. And then Stephen Bailey, the drummer that we've been using live for our live shows and our original shows, and has also played with us on a
He has
cover
the
show.
band Synergy in town.
He recorded on a song for Granddad and Better Than a Country Song.
But fun fact, and what blows me away, is that not Cliff Aaron, but Cliff Prowse, recorded all of the instruments on High and Dry except for my one teensy-meensy little piano solo that I run over and do dink around on. But like High and Dry musically, guys, go listen to track number 12. Man, it is. In fact, if you're listening, you've made it this far because we have far surpassed our 30 minutes, but that's fine. We got a story to tell. So you can go right now, if it's before the 27th, you can go on our social media, click the link where we said get a free song before the album drops. That free song is going to be High and Dry. And everybody that's done it so far, they're like, wow.
Yeah, and the one reason why we did it is because, we really wanted to order these songs in the right way on the album, and we were like, we think High and Dry is a great ending song to this album, but we don't want people to, get to the album and not get all the way to the end of the song.
No, I'm gonna talk about High and Dry. I mean, honestly, when you guys hear us and watch us perform High and Dry, I think it's gonna be a crowd pleaser. It's interesting what people actually do like. So we're to be determined on what song is gonna be your favorite. And y'all chime in.
We'll
let
get
us know.
out there and they'll be like, if it's worth doing, it's the best song on the album.
And then we'll be like, that's the one. We were like, do we even put it on there? But so so the recording process, I think that pretty much covers how you do it. And it's called single track recording, where you do each track. We don't have a full band that comes in and track at the same time. Cliff does it.
We are in our house and we have 2 rooms dedicated to the studio.
So, and maybe on the video, I might be able to do a little shot into the studio, so people
B-roll.
a little B-roll on the video of this podcast. So that is something you might want to go over to our YouTube channel, Cliff and Susan, and
so I think lastly is kind of how we really do like to work with a lot of Arkansas artists here, and whether it's a drummer on our album or our show coming up, having Ryan Harmon is going to be opening for us on our January 11th album debut. We always like to rise with all of the Arkansas talent, and we're doing a really cool collab coming up with Erin Enderlin, who is also an amazing Arkansas artist that has really made a name for herself.
So 2 things. Live, we want to talk about the collab with Erin and what our plans are after the album as far as our music. And then, let's focus on the live shows real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over.
Yeah, so band creation, how do, and I know this is going to evolve inevitably. We are going to continue to grow our live show with the full band. I will say I had the time of my life, not this past weekend, but weekend before last. We did 2 Arkansas festivals. Arkansas Arkadelphia Festival of the Arts on October 13th. That was Friday the 13th, by the way. That might have been why we had so many sound issues.
That's right.
We had a little bit of sound check issues, but once we got going, we were in our element. And then the following Saturday was Cabot Fest in Cabot, Arkansas, and that show, it was an hour set on Friday and a 45-minute set.
Too.
Beautiful weather. Just couldn't have asked for a better weekend for us to debut our album. That was the first time we performed these songs live.
Yeah, not the whole album, but a lot of
Most
songs
of
that
them.
you'd never heard. Yeah.
And that's when we had Stephen Bailey on drums. We had Jack Bennett, who is the lead singer of Bad Habit,
And guitarist,
on
yeah.
guitar. And then we had Joey Fanstar, whom I've known for 20 years, and he was on bass. Did a great job. So he's fun to watch. He's so
Yeah.
animated on stage. They all are. But so we had we got the guys together. We had 3 rehearsals and just said, let's get this started. Let's make sure we get our sound, translated and transferred from what you hear in the recordings onto a live full band option. And so we're going to roll into the new year with that debut album release show on Thursday, January 11th at Sticky's. And it's a 90-minute set. Like Cliff said, Ryan Harmon of American Idol. He is an Arkansas boy. He has a great voice and he has great songs. But what I love just as much of that is that he is a fun performer. And I said, I want an opening act that somebody who, can entertain the crowd that's going to be there to come see us, who knows that we are an entertaining act. And I'm not saying that other bands aren't entertaining, but that really is for us. One of the things that sets us apart is we're going to be rocking. I'm going to be in your face and we're going to be having some fun. And I'm going to be trying to get you to shake and shimmy and do all the dancing and clapping and singing along and interacting with us in our show. So we did a pretty good job of that our first weekend. And so we're looking forward to growing that into the year, new year. And then beyond that, we're going to pick up as many festivals and shows as we can. Briefly, let's talk about our duo shows. Cliff and I can be found on the stage into our 9th year of residency at Oaklawn Racing Casino Resort in beautiful Hot Springs, Arkansas, and that's where I grew up. And we have racing, the thoroughbred racing season or racing meet every year. The season goes from December to May, so we're going to be there every weekend. I tell people, if you are at the races on a Friday or Saturday, then you're going to know we are absolutely going to be in the casino performing from 4 to 8 p.m., which means when those races ends, you just continue the party right into that casino. Come into Pop's Lounge and find us. And we are doing our duo show. We sound like a full band because I've got a drum machine. My left hand is on bass. I'm doing stacked keys. And so that high energy cover show you're going to find. Now, of course, we will play some of our original music during the shows because I'm sure hopefully you guys will like them and want to request them. So that is going to be a challenge in the next coming months as we head into 2024, we won't be available necessarily on a Friday, Saturday for big festivals, but we are absolutely going to hit it hard on reaching out to all of our contacts to get into festivals, venues. And so you'll see us you'll see us do some of those on a Thursday or a Sunday or maybe an off night where we can, locally, we'd love to open for some big names coming through or collaborate with some of our fellow artists to do some collab shows. Yeah. And so that full band is something that we're really proud of and going to continue to grow. Cliff, this is a question, where do we hope to be in 2, 5, 10 years? I mean, big things.
2, 5, and 10 years. That's a lot.
Let's just talk big dreams for us. We're independent. We're not signed to a label. Not to say we won't ever, but at this point in our career, we're doing it all ourselves and learning to build a team. We've had a PR team and we've got production crews and all that we're working for, videography and photographers, and we're doing it all ourselves. Grassroots over here, y'all folks. Now you hear. But moving forward, I want to open for Lainey Wilson. I'm just putting that into the universe. If you don't dream it and don't shoot for it, then is it ever going to happen? So what are you even doing with your life if you're not dreaming big is what I'm saying. But we'd love to play on the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, all those big milestones. I think mostly, I always tell people right now, we do music for a living full time. So we've already hit it. To me, that's success. But if I really wanted to say where do we want to shoot for, get that live show just as good as any out there, so that when some big artist comes through and they need an opening act, like ZZ Top, we opened for ZZ Top last year. So we've done these things, but continuing that and big names, be on tour with the big artists, be on the Ryman, Grand Ole Opry. I'd love to work with big producers in Nashville and go out there and do some big work in the studio, that kind of thing.
Be a lot of fun.
That's the long term. Let's talk about the collab with Aaron, and then we're going to leave you guys with where to find all of the things where you can find and support us.
So Aaron Enderlin, a good friend of ours, she it's actually a long time coming. Ever since I moved to Nashville, before then I knew about her. because I think her aunt and uncle would come into Larry's Pizza, where I managed a pizza restaurant all
And
the
you're
time.
playing on
Yeah, I played on Music Mondays.
Music Monday,
And,
Larry's Pizza, y'all.
And they were like,
Rusty Conway. Did you go by Rusty?
No,
No, he
They
was-
heard about me moving to Nashville, and they were like, "You got to look up our niece Erin." Or so I've known
Let me
about her
rattle
for a
off
long
some
time.
accolades on Erin real quick. Erin Anderlin, not only is she an amazing, cool girl, but she's performed on the Grand Ole Opry over 20 times. I think it's 25 or 26.
26 maybe.
She has cuts by Luke Bryan, Reba McEntire, Alan Jackson, Leanne Womack, and many others. I will forget all of them. She is now undefeated, 6-time winning Songwriter of the Year for the Arkansas Country Music Awards.
right.
She was on tour with Tanya Tucker. I mean, her accolades are a mile long, and she has done. Elton John had her on his podcast. Roseanne Cash was the reason that happened. I mean, fun fact, Chris Stapleton was her roommate when he was just getting started in Nashville. In fact,
And
came
sang the
downstairs.
background vocals.
He did the BGVs on one of her albums, and he came down and shared his version of Tennessee Whiskey where they lived together. And it was like, "Do you like this?" And she's like, "Yeah." Those are the things that she shared with us. Super cool stories. But Erin and the two of us, she asked us to perform her song that was made a hit by Leanne Womack called "Last Call." She asked us to join her on stage to perform at the Arkansas Country Music Awards this year in 2023, and we came up with our version. I was on keys, Cliff was on fiddle, background vocals, and she of course was the lead vocal on her song "Last Call," and that happened and was just a really magical moment for us, for sure. And she said, "We got to collab, let's do," and it turned into a 3-song collaboration. So we will be releasing "Last Call" with Erin. The second song will be "Lonesome Cold as You." So you're going to get the third version of "Lonesome Cold as You," but now with Erin. And then, because Erin loved that song and she put it on her playlist and really just gravitated toward that "Lonesome Cold as You" song.
Yeah.
Finally, we decided that we need to write one together. So as of 3 or 4 days ago, we got together here in our studio and wrote a song called Petit Jean. Petit Jean is a mountain and here in Arkansas, but it was named after Petit Jean, who was a French girl who followed her fiance from Paris to during the Louisiana Purchase. They sailed over here up the Mississippi River, up the Arkansas, and ended up with the Native Americans and staying with them, and landed at this mountain where she got sick. She disguised her gender as a cabin boy, cut her hair, and tried to follow her fiance, and did follow him, and he did not know that she was on the ship until she fell ill and died and asked to be buried on the mountain, and they named the mountain Petit Jean. So the story of Petit Jean is told in the song. Beautiful song. We're excited to produce that. So that 3-song series and collaboration will be our next project. And then we are still deciding on what song, if it's a single or an EP, to release of our own stuff.
We've got several in our catalog, and we were trying to figure out which one that we should release next or write next. Maybe it's something new.
We have
I'm
one
not
song.
sure.
What's it called? 3 Little Dogs and My Woman and Me.
Yeah, it might be that one.
I like that one.
There's several that I've gotten pretty much written or started. So we'll
And
see
some
what
that I
comes
started,
next.
like you were on the road with Midnight
Yeah.
South when y'all got to open for Kenny Chesney, and I was all missing you. And I went back there to my piano and wrote a song, "When He's Gone."
Yep.
So
Gotta
these
finish
are
that one.
all of the notes and the ideas that we continue to kind of just put together and put in our bank, and then we decide what makes sense and what feels right, and what maybe we test it out on social media or at a show, and you guys really like it, and then we're like, okay, well that's the next one. So
Yep.
that's it, guys. That's where we are in our career, and we just want to say thank you. I didn't really talk enough about how important our fans and followers and supporters have been. I mean, you guys, if you hadn't encouraged us and shown up to those shows and given us opportunities to rock with you on stages and with great crowds, we wouldn't have been at this point in our career to have found our skin on stage and really come out of our shells when it comes to music and performing and everything that's kind of driven and like just basically steered us into the direction of where we are now. So thank y'all. We will be releasing a Kickstarter project in the coming, hopefully, week, where you guys can purchase. I'm not because the album will be out, but you can purchase the CDs. We're going to release vinyl. We'll have some other limited edition options for you on merch.
Yeah, honestly, some really cool package that we've
And
put together.
that will include my artwork. I'm a watercolor artist, and so you will be able to purchase some of my paintings and prints, and that will all be launched very soon. So that really leaves me in conclusion with thank you guys for listening. We're almost at an hour, which is totally fine. If you've listened to this point, thank you guys. That means you really are interested in what we have to offer and what we're doing with our career. Y'all mean the world to us, and connect with us on social media. Go to Cliff and Susan on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I'd say those are where we're most active. We're even on LinkedIn and Threads, and gosh, wherever the latest is, we're pretty much there. So, YouTube, you're watching this on YouTube maybe. Thank you. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. That helps us, stay in touch with you guys, but grow our channel as we continue our podcast and our music career. Thank you guys. We hope you have a great one wherever you are. Go find Fiddle and Keys. Give it a stream. Share it with your friends. It would mean the world to us.
We'll see you next time.